Hello, sitting here on Sunday, what is July 22nd, sitting on my deck in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Want to talk to you about the VisionWalk coming up and what your support has meant over the years, where we are. So, brief recap, the eye disease I have is retinitis pigmentosa, inherited retinal disease. So hopefully if I make it, considering my heart attack in January, if I make it another month, I'll be 59. I stopped driving just before I was 40. I lost the ability to read printed text maybe 8 or 10 years ago. I don't even know today if I'm looking at the camera. My vision is pretty much down to light perception only. If I look up at the sky, I can see the light. I can barely see my hand move in front of me. If someone else was doing that in front of me, I probably wouldn't see it. So it continues to get worse. But there's hope, and what I wanted to tell you about was what your support has meant over the years is last December, the first ever gene therapy of any kind for any inherited disease in this country was approved by the FDA. That means that people are actually being treated for the disease, and it happens to be an eye disease, a rarer form of retinitis pigmentosa. That was by a company, Luxturna. And before any treatment gets to the market, it has to successfully go through 3 phases of human clinical trials. And maybe 10 years or so ago, there was virtually no clinical trials going on, no more than a handful at best. Now we have over 30 human clinical trials dealing with different retinal diseases and different retinal issues. One in particular that is very exciting to me personally is taking place in France. They just launched it. That's a company called Harama, and they're working specifically with the gene that is causing my vision loss. My gene was identified by blood sample several years ago, and the same process and procedure generally that was done in the Luxturna clinical trials, which is now a treatment, is being done in France. That's taking a healthy gene created in the laboratory, implanting it in a virus, injecting that in the eye, and having it find its way to the retina to restore some vision. So very, very exciting there. Those of you that have followed me know that I'm in a clinical trial at Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary in Boston. I'm about ready to finish my commitment to that in September. That'll be over 10 trips to Boston over 30 days, and the trial is considered to be successful because there's been no adverse effects. They're continuing with that trial, recruiting patients who have better vision than I have, and that involves stem cells, taking partially developed photoreceptor cells, the rods and the cones, the cells in your retina that receive light and transform that into vision, injecting those prematurely developed photoreceptors underneath the retina in hopes that they grow and develop into healthy photoreceptor cells. So lots of promise with that trial, still ongoing. Another one that's extremely promising, especially for people like me with advanced vision loss, is called optogenetics. That's taking place at Southwest Retina down in Texas. And it takes a form of an algae and injects that into the eye in an effort to stimulate the portions of the retina that remain healthy for people with these eye diseases. So the rods and the cones tend to die over time for people with retinitis pigmentosa, but other cells remain viable. So the optogenetics procedure takes this algae and tries to trick those healthy cells into receiving light and acting as if they were photoreceptor cells. So that's extremely, extremely promising, and that's been going on for about a year and a half down in Texas. So there's several other clinical trials, and I know that, again, for those of you that have followed this journey for a number of years, it has been a number of years. I had no idea when I started this back in 2007 that 11, I guess, years later, I'd still be coming back to you and asking for your support for the Foundation Fighting Blindness. It never moves, it being the research fast enough for those of us that are affected. But in science terms, things are really moving fast. Right now, there's more promising studies and research clinical trials than we have funding to support. And we can't, at the foundation, support a clinical trial on our own because a clinical trial can cost upwards of $40 million, sometimes over $100 million. But we have played a role in virtually all of these clinical trials that are taking place in the translational research, helping move the research from the lab into the human clinical trial stage, and positioning that research so that pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, and venture capitalists will view this as a viable risk for them to take, and that is actually happening. We have a lot of interest in what's going on at the foundation with this research. So I guess I wanted to keep this short, and I apologize for my neighbor's air conditioner kicking on. I hope you can still hear me. But I so much appreciate your hanging in there with me in this. We need to keep up the fight. I don't know how much longer it's going to take, but I am convinced that these things are going to be cured. That blindness is going to be cured through your support and the support of so many other people like you. So thank you so very much, and I hope you will support me again this year in the Twin Cities Vision Walk.